The message said, "Next time, without the oil." That's all it took to make my stomach twist like I'd been punched in the gut. 5 words. 5 damn words. And suddenly, my entire world didn't make sense anymore. I was sitting on the couch, trying to pick a movie for the night, when her phone buzzed on the coffee table. It was face up, and I wasn't even trying to snoop. It just lit up at the wrong moment. Or maybe the right one. At first, I thought it was some kind of joke. I stared at the name, Leo Massage, and that line. Next time, without the oil. No context. No emojis. Nothing playful or innocent about it. Just raw, bold. Like it wasn't meant to be hidden at all. I blinked. I wanted to believe it was some weird professional thing. Maybe she complained about being slippery. Maybe this guy was just awkwardly worded. But no matter how hard I tried to spin it, it felt wrong. My gut screamed louder than my brain could make excuses. And here's the real kick in the teeth. I was the one who paid for the massage. It was our anniversary. I wanted her to feel special, so I shelled out almost $600 for a premium spa package at a place she'd always dreamed of going. Swedish massages, aromatherapy, the whole luxury deal. She'd been raving about it for weeks, telling her friends how lucky she was to have such a thoughtful husband. She had no idea I'd seen the message. I didn't say a word, just handed her the phone when she came back into the room like nothing had happened. She smiled, kissed me on the cheek, and plopped down next to me like we were the happiest couple in the world. That night, I didn't sleep. My eyes were closed, but my mind was racing, replaying every recent conversation, every change in her behavior, the longer showers, the new underwear, the sudden interest in self-care. It wasn't just the message. It was everything around it. And I know what you're thinking. Why didn't I confront her right then and there? Because I wanted the truth, not some twisted version she could spin when cornered. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I wanted confirmation so solid that even she couldn't deny I teed up. By the way, if stories like this pull you in, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens next. I've got more than one wild chapter to share. Back to the madness. The next day, I took off work without telling her. Said I had meetings all day, but really, I was parked in my car outside that spa like a private investigator in a bad Netflix show. I waited, watched, and sure enough, she walked in right on time, dressed way too nice for a massage. Full makeup, heels, perfume. Not the chill sweatpants and bun look you'd expect for someone going to relax. I waited some more. And about 25 minutes later, she came out. Not through the main entrance. Nope. She slipped out the back, laughing. With him, same guy from the message. Tall, gym rat type. Smug. Wearing scrubs like he just finished saving lives, when really, he was just ruining mine. They didn't see me, but I saw everything. They weren't just chatting. She touched his arm. He leaned in too close. And for a moment, they looked exactly like a couple. My stomach turned again, but this time, it wasn't from shock. It was rage. Cold, quiet rage. Still, I didn't move, didn't yell, didn't cry. I hit record. That's when I knew I had her. This wasn't a hunch anymore. This wasn't paranoia. This was betrayal, caught in broad daylight. On camera. But I didn't go home and confront her. Not yet. I had something better in mind. The video was short, but it burned into my mind. Her hand on his arm. His smug grin. The way she looked at him. Like he was the only man in the world. If I'd seen that video of someone else's wife, I wouldn't have questioned it for a second. But when it's your own wife, your own life, that's when denial creeps in. Maybe I misread it. Maybe she was just being friendly. Maybe I caught one innocent moment that looked worse than it was. That's what my brain tried to tell me. But my gut said otherwise. That night, I came home, and she was already there. Fresh out of the shower, smiling, casual, like she hadn't just walked out of the back of a spa with another man. She kissed me, asked about my day, curled up next to me on the couch, and I played along. Smiled, held her, said nothing. But I didn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, piecing everything together. The new lingerie, the longer showers, the sudden glow in her skin, the sparkle in her eyes. It wasn't me putting it there. I knew that now. So I started documenting. Quietly, carefully, every text, every call, every shift in her schedule. I learned how to mirror her phone onto my laptop so I could see everything in real time. Most of her messages were harmless. Work, friends, grocery lists. But when his name popped up, different story. One night I saw "You smelled amazing today." Her reply, "You always know how to make me feel good." Screenshot. Saved. Added to the growing folder on my desktop titled simply, "Proof that I wasn't collecting these just to scream." In her face. No, I was building a record. Something airtight. Because the truth is, I had something she'd forgotten all about. A prenup. We signed it years ago, back when we were young and broke and in love. Back when neither of us thought we'd ever need it. But that prenup had one key clause. Infidelity voided her claim to anything beyond her personal belongings. And suddenly, that document felt like the most important paper I'd ever signed. The next morning, I called a lawyer, explained the situation, showed him the folder. He didn't flinch, just leaned back, tapped his pen on the desk, and said, "Don't confront her yet. Keep collecting. Once we file, it needs to be airtight. She can't have any room to twist this." So I did exactly that. I followed her again. Watched the same routine. She walked in through the front, left through the back. Different days, same man. Same betrayal. Every time, I recorded. Every time, I saved another clip. Another angle. Another nail in the coffin. At home, she kept playing the perfect wife. Cooking dinner. Asking about my day. Smiling like she didn't have a care in the world. And I matched her, step for step. Calm. Loving. Present. She thought she was fooling me. But the truth was, I was the one fooling her. Because while she thought she was living her little double life, I was building something bigger. A case she wouldn't be able to escape. She was lying to me. But I was planning for her. And she had no idea. When you suspect betrayal, that's one kind of pain. But when you see it with your own eyes, when you hold the evidence in your hands, something inside you shifts. You stop being just a husband with doubts. You become a witness, an observer, someone waiting for the right moment to strike. That moment came faster than I expected. It was a Sunday afternoon. Normal, quiet. She told me she was going in for another massage. I nodded, kissed her on the cheek, and wished her a good session. She smiled back, sweet as ever. No idea I already knew that as soon as she left, I grabbed my keys and drove. Parked near the back of the spa, the same spot I'd used before. This time, though, I wanted to be closer. Close enough to hear. Close enough to see every little detail. 23 minutes later, the door opened, and there she was, my wife, floating out of the building in a light dress, glowing, laughing. At her side, him, Leo, tall, arrogant, walking like he owned the ground beneath his feet. Her hand slid across his back. His hand rested on her waist. They weren't sneaking. They weren't cautious. They were comfortable. Like a couple who had nothing to hide. I stepped out of my car, staying low, hidden just behind the corner of the building. Close enough that I could hear her laugh. A laugh so free, so light, it cut me deeper than I thought possible. She hadn't laughed like that with me in months. And then I heard his voice, low and smug, whispering something in her ear. She leaned into him, giggling like a girl with her first crush. My stomach twisted. My hand tightened around the phone I was holding. The camera was already rolling. And then it happened. The one moment I can never erase from my mind. She kissed him. Not a quick, nervous peck. Not an accident. No, this was deliberate. A slow, intimate kiss. The kind you give someone when you've already chosen them. I froze. Just a few feet away, watching my wife give herself to another man like I didn't even exist. For a second, I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't move. But then, I did something that surprised even me. I stayed calm. I didn't run up screaming. I didn't start a fight. I didn't make a scene. I just kept recording. That's when I knew my feelings for her were gone. Whatever love I thought was left, it died right there, on that sidewalk, in the middle of the afternoon. When they walked off together, hand in hand, I turned and walked back to my car. Started the engine. Drove home. Silent. Cold. Focused. By the time she returned that evening, I was already waiting. She came in late, hair slightly messy, wearing the same fake tired smile. "Massage was amazing," she said, tossing her bag on the chair. "I feel so relaxed." She kissed me softly, like she had a secret, like she thought she was clever, and I kissed her back. Smiled. Nodded. Played my role to perfection because she had no idea. No idea that her little secret was already on video. That her words, her smiles, her lies were nothing but noise now. The next day, I met my lawyer again. Handed him the footage that he watched, expressionless. then leaned back in his chair. This, he said, is bulletproof. She can't deny it. Not for a second. I felt lighter. Not happy, not victorious. Just clear, for the first time in weeks. I didn't have to wonder. I didn't have to doubt. I had the truth, locked and loaded. And she was still living in her fantasy, still laughing, still planning, still pretending like nothing was wrong. But the walls were closing in, and soon, very soon, the act would indeed be by the time I had the folder of evidence stacked on my laptop. I knew it wasn't just about catching her anymore. It was about control. She thought she was running the show, balancing me and her little side fling like she was some mastermind. But the truth was, I was already ahead of her. I had the texts. I had the videos. I had the lawyer. The only thing left was to make sure the guy she was sneaking around with couldn't just keep hiding behind that SPA.S. I booked a meeting. Not with him, no. With his boss. The spa was the kind of place that lived on reputation. Glossy windows, scented candles, overpriced packages for people who wanted to feel rich for an hour. One scandal could ruin everything. And I was about to hand them one. The owner was a man in his 50s, sharp suit, sharp eyes. He welcomed me into his office like I was just another client with a complaint. What seems to be the issue? He asked politely. That I slid the folder onto his desk. I'll let the evidence speak. He opened it. First the screenshots, then the video of her slipping out the back with Leo, laughing like a teenager sneaking off after curfew. His jaw tightened. With every page, every frame. Finally, he closed the folder, exhaled slowly, and leaned back. This isn't the first time I've heard whispers, he admitted. But no one ever had proof. Until now. That was all I needed to hear. I don't care what you do with him, I said evenly. But if he's still working here, if he's still touching clients after this, I promise you, I won't keep it quiet. The owner's face hardened. He understood. His entire business was on the line. You have my word, he said. He won't be here another day. And just like that, the first domino fell. I walked out of that spa with the calmest smile I'd had in weeks. I didn't need to shout, didn't need to make a scene. The machine was already in motion, and I had just pressed the start button. That night, she came home glowing again. Probably thought she'd just had another secret rendezvous. She kissed me, told me she was tired, and disappeared into the shower. I nodded, poured myself a drink, and said nothing. Because what she didn't know was that her fantasy was already over. Her masseur, her little escape from reality. He was finished in just a few days. She'd find out the hard way, and I couldn't wait to watch her world start to crumble. It didn't take long for the silence to start eating at her. First, she acted normal. Came home smiling, humming while she cooked, asking me about my day. The same little act she'd been playing for weeks. But the cracks showed fast. Every time she picked up her phone, I saw it. The flicker of disappointment, the forced smile as she pretended she wasn't waiting for something. Leo was gone. She didn't know it yet, but he was finished. Fired. Blacklisted. His license under review. The man she'd risked everything for had vanished into thin air. And the best part? She didn't know WHY.AT dinner. She kept glancing at her phone, screen lighting up and going dark. Nothing. When we watched TV, I caught her unlocking. The same chat over and over, scrolling like maybe she'd missed something. But there was nothing to find. And I'll be honest, watching her spiral was a kind of satisfaction I can't describe. She thought she was so clever. Thought she was sneaking behind my back, getting away with it. But now the man she gambled on had tossed her aside without even saying goodbye. She started snapping at me over the smallest things. One night, because I left my shoes by the door. Another time, because I forgot to grab milk on the way home. It wasn't about the shoes. It wasn't about the milk. It was about him. About the silence where her little thrill used to be, but I stayed calm. Collected. Because unlike her, I wasn't losing anything. I was gaining control. Then came the night she broke. I walked in from work and found her sitting on the couch, phone in her lap, just staring at the wall. Not scrolling, not typing, just sitting there, looking lost. Her eyes were red, her face pale. She didn't even hear me come in. You okay? I asked, voice casual. She jumped, wiped her face quickly, and forced a smile. Yeah, just tired. But the way her voice cracked told me everything. That night, she curled up next to me in bed like she hadn't in months, pressed her face into my chest, and whispered, I love you. For a second, I almost felt something, pity, maybe. But then I remembered the way she kissed him, the way she laughed with him, the way she lied to me without blinking. And any pity I had turned to stone. She wasn't holding me because she loved me. She was holding me because he was gone. Because she needed something to cling to when her fantasy crashed. And the beauty of it all? She still had no idea I was the one who pulled the strings. She thought it was her fault. Thought maybe she said the wrong thing, did the wrong thing. Thought maybe he just lost interest. She sat there in silence, doubting herself, wondering why she wasn't enough. And I let her, because that silence, the silence of not knowing, was louder, sharper, and crueler than anything I could ever say to her face. Her little world was starting to collapse, and she had no idea just how much further she was about to fall. For weeks, I played the perfect husband. Calm, attentive, predictable. She thought I was still in the dark, thought she was getting away with everything. But really, I was just waiting. Waiting for the right moment to end the show. That moment came on a Wednesday evening. She was sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling on her phone, clearly frustrated. I could see it on her face, the panic, the confusion, the realization that Leo wasn't coming back. She didn't know he'd been fired. She didn't know his license was suspended. She only knew that her little escape had dried up, and she was stuck here with me. That I poured 2 glasses of wine and sat across from her. You seem tense, I said lightly. She forced a smile. Just tired. Work's been crazy. The same excuse she always gave when she thought I might notice something. I slid the glass toward her, leaned back, and looked her dead in the eye. Funny, I said. Because you weren't so tired when you were sneaking out of the spa with him. Her face went white. The phone slipped slightly in her hand. She blinked, like she didn't even understand the words. What are you talking about? I didn't raise my voice. Didn't move. I just pulled out my phone, opened the folder, and pressed play. The video of her walking out the back door, laughing with Leo, filled the screen. I let it run. Every frame. Her hand on his back. His hand on her waist. The kiss. When I looked up, her face was pale, her mouth slightly open. This isn't what it looks like, she stammered. That I almost laughed. Really? Then explain. The texts. I swiped to the screenshots. You smelled amazing today. You always know how to make me feel good. I slid the phone across the table to her. Go ahead. Spin it. She stared at the screen, silent. Her breathing got faster. Her hands trembled. Finally, she whispered. It was just a mistake. A stupid mistake. It didn't mean anything. I leaned forward. Then why did you keep going back? Over and over again. Why did you kiss him? Tears welled up in her eyes. I don't. No. I was lonely. I felt like you didn't care anymore. The classic excuse. Blame me. Twist it. Make herself the victim. But I didn't bite. I pulled a manila envelope from the drawer beside me and dropped it on the table. Her eyes flicked to it, confused. What's that? She whispered. Divorce papers, I said flatly. Already. Filed. Already in motion. She froze. Tears spilled over. You're divorcing me? Yes. My voice didn't waver. And thanks to the prenup, you'll walk away with nothing but your clothes. No house. No savings. No part of the company. Nothing. She shook her head, panicked. No, please. We can fix this. I'll end it, I swear. He doesn't mean anything to me. I stood up slowly, looked down at her with the calmest expression I'd ever had, and said, he already ended it. He dumped you the second he lost his job. You weren't his future. You were a fling. And now you're alone. That's not on me. That's on you. The silence that followed was louder than any shouting match could have been. She sobbed quietly, clutching the papers like they might dissolve if she held them tight enough. That I walked away, glass of wine still in my hand, feeling lighter with every step, because the reveal was done. The mask was off, and she had nothing left to hide behind. After the reveal, everything unraveled fast. The tears, the begging, the empty promises, they all blurred together. She swore she'd change, swore she'd cut him off, swore she'd be better. But the thing is, I didn't need her to swear anything, because the decision wasn't in her hands anymore. It was in mine. The divorce papers were already filed. The prenup was ironclad. My lawyer had every screenshot, every video, every timestamp neatly packaged and ready to go. She couldn't twist it, couldn't spin it, couldn't fight it. The first blow came with the finances. Her accounts were hers. My accounts were mine. The prenup ensured that the house, the business, the savings, all of it stayed with me. She got what the contract allowed. Her personal belongings and nothing more. No car. No credit cards tied to my name. No access to the life she'd been so comfortable living. When the reality hit, she broke down. I'll never forget the look on her face when my lawyer explained the terms to her in cold legal language. She tried to argue, tried to twist the meaning of infidelity. But the proof was there. Black and white. Video and text. Undeniable. She wasn't just losing me. She was losing everything that came with me. The second blow came socially. Word spreads fast. Friends, family, even people at her job started hearing whispers. She tried to spin her own story, of course. Claimed we just grew apart. Claimed I was cold. Claimed she made one mistake. But whispers turn into talk. And talk turns into truth. And the truth was ugly. I didn't even have to say much. I just lived my life, quiet and calm. People saw the calm in me and the chaos in her, and they drew their own conclusions. She became the subject of pity, of gossip, the woman who had it all and threw it away for a fling. The third blow came from him, Leo. She finally admitted to me one night, through tears, that she'd been trying to reach him. Calling, texting, no answer. She confessed that he'd blocked her completely. I don't understand, she cried. I thought he cared. I looked at her and said nothing. Because what was there to say? He never cared. She was convenient, disposable. And now, she was alone. No husband, no lover, no support system. One by one, every piece of her life fell apart. She had to move out of the house, my house. Packed her clothes into bags and boxes, leaving behind the furniture, the pictures, the life we'd built together. She begged to stay, begged for a second chance, but I didn't budge. The locks changed. The keys were gone. When she left that day, she wasn't the same woman who used to walk out the front door dressed for massages. She looked smaller, weaker, like the weight of her own choices had finally crushed her. And me? I didn't yell. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. I just stood there, watching the moving truck pull away, and felt free because she hadn't just lost me. She had lost everything. And the best part? She did it to herself, losing the house, the money, and the man she threw it all away for. That was bad enough. But honestly, that wasn't the part that broke her. What really destroyed her was when the story slipped into the open. It started with whispers. A couple of friends who'd noticed something was off, asking gentle questions she couldn't answer without tripping over her own lies. She told them half-truths, painted herself as the victim, claimed I was cold and distant, and that she'd made one stupid mistake. But people aren't dumb. The problem with lies is that they crack under the weight of repetition. Stories change, details shift, and soon, people notice. And me? I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. I just kept living my life. Calm, steady, at peace. People saw the difference. They saw the way I carried myself compared to the way she unraveled. And the whispers turned into conclusions. The truth got out. Friends who used to invite her to brunch stopped calling. Mutual acquaintances she used to brag to now avoided her. Even family gatherings got cold. I never had to tell anyone anything. They put the pieces together themselves. Her reputation collapsed faster than her marriage. Work. Things got worse. She'd built her image there on being polished, dependable, the woman with the perfect life. But once the gossip reached the office, that image shattered. Her coworkers looked at her differently. Not with respect. Not even with pity. With judgment. She tried to hold it together, but cracks showed everywhere. Reports missed deadlines. Meetings ended in tears. The same woman who once walked into every room with her head high now avoided eye contact and rushed past people in the hall. Eventually, she quit. Couldn't handle the weight of the stairs. She went from admired to whispered about, from respected to ridiculed. And I'll admit, there was a part of me that wanted to gloat, to stand up and shout, "This is what happens when you betray me." But I didn't. I didn't need to, because the silence, the absence of defense, was louder than any speech I could give. I ran into a mutual friend one day at the grocery store. She gave me a sad smile and said, "I heard what happened. I'm so sorry." Then she leaned in and added, "Honestly, she really screwed herself over, didn't she?" I just shrugged. "People make choices," I said simply. And that was the truth. She made her choice. And now she was living with it. Alone, humiliated, stripped of the life she thought she'd always have. For me, life was getting lighter every day. For her, the walls kept closing in tighter and tighter. And the cruelest part? I never had to lift a finger. She ruined herself to be by the time everything had collapsed around her. I thought the story was over. She had lost her home, her money, her friends, her reputation, and her lover. She was living alone, scraping by, drifting through life like a ghost of the woman she used to be. I figured she'd disappear quietly, and I'd move on with my own life. But then my phone rang and IT was late, close to midnight, when her name flashed on the screen. I stared at it for a moment, debating whether to answer. Part of me wanted to ignore it, let her voice go into the void. But curiosity won. I pressed accept and lifted the phone to my ear. The sound that came through was nothing like the woman I once knew. She was sobbing, her voice shaking, broken. "Please," she whispered. I need to talk to you." I didn't say anything, just waited. "I made a mistake," she cried. "The biggest mistake of my life. I was stupid. I didn't know what I had. Please, I can fix this. We can fix this. I just want you back." For a long moment, I let the silence hang. The same silence I had carried for months. The silence that had become my greatest weapon. Finally, I spoke. Calm. Even there's nothing to fix. She choked on her breath. "Don't say that. Please. I know I hurt you, but I love you. I've always loved you. I was just lost. Lonely." It didn't mean anything. I almost laughed at the desperation in her voice. After everything, after destroying our marriage, after losing everything, she was still trying to spin the same story. Still trying to paint herself as confused, as misunderstood that I cut her off. "You didn't just make a mistake. You made a choice. Over and over again. You chose him. You chose to lie to me. You chose to throw everything away. And now you want me to save you from the mess you created." She was quiet on the other end, just soft sobbing. "I can't save you," I said coldly. "And I don't want to. Some things can't be undone. And this is one of them. Please." She whispered again, so faint I could barely hear her. "Just don't hang up. Please don't leave me like this." I closed my eyes, took a breath, and delivered the final blow. "You left yourself like this. Goodbye." And then I hung up. The silence afterward was deafening. For her, it was the silence of rejection, of finality, of realizing there was no way back. For me, it was the silence of peace. The calm revenge I'd been waiting for. No screaming. No shouting. No grand revenge plot. Just the quiet truth that she had destroyed herself, and that I was free. And in that moment, I realized nothing hurts more than silence. After that final call, everything went quiet. For her, it was the silence of loss. For me, it was the silence of freedom. The weeks that followed felt different, lighter somehow. No more pretending. No more walking on eggshells, second-guessing, or waiting for the other shoe to drop. My life was mine again, and for the first time in years, I could breathe. First, I thought the emptiness of the house would weigh on me. I thought I'd miss her presence, the routine, even the small talk. But it didn't. What I missed wasn't real. It was the illusion of a marriage, the illusion of love. Once I saw it for what it was, I realized there was nothing to miss. That I poured my energy into myself. I went back to the gym, picked up hobbies I'd abandoned years ago, and reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in ages. I spent weekends outdoors, traveling, trying things I'd always put off. Slowly, I started to feel like myself again, except stronger, smarter, sharper. And then, one day, I met someone new. Not the flashy kind of new that sweeps you off your feet. No, someone real, genuine, honest. The kind of person who didn't need to lie, didn't need to sneak around, didn't need to pretend. It wasn't fireworks at first, it was trust. And after what I'd been through, trust was worth more than anything. Looking back now, I don't see myself as a victim. Not anymore. What happened hurt deeply, but it shaped me. It taught me to recognize my own worth. It taught me patience. It taught me that sometimes the best revenge isn't anger, isn't shouting, isn't even payback. Sometimes the best revenge is peace. Because when someone betrays you, they expect rage. They expect chaos. What they don't expect is calm. Silence. The kind of silence that follows them long after you've moved on. The kind that reminds them they lost something they'll never get back. That's what broke her more than anything. Not my anger, not my words, but the fact that I didn't need her anymore. that I walked away without looking back, and me? I'm happier now than I ever was with her. Stronger, freer, living a life that's mine again. So, what do you think? Did I do the right thing? What would you have done if you were in my place? If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. Drop a like to support the channel and leave a comment below with your thoughts. I really want to know, did I handle this the right way? Or would you have taken a different path?